How does gaining 100 pounds affect you physically? And how does it affect you mentally? Well, I'm going to tell you on how it affected my life. And before I get into how 100 pounds changed my life, I decided to break them down into categories. So here are the timestamps. Number 1 being before the weight gain, 2 during the weight gain and how it all happened, and 3 how it affected my life and how it changed me physically and mentally. Whichever it is that you'd like to skip to, you can go ahead and do that now. I will also leave the timestamps in the description. So before I gained the 100 pounds, I was between 137 and 142, but for the purpose of this video, I kind of just did it in the middle. So I was about 140 pounds. I did personal training. I ran very often. I ran about like 4 to 6 miles a few times in a week. And it's just something that I enjoyed. I've always enjoyed running. It's always been therapeutic for me. And I would also go to the gym probably 5 times a week. I ate healthy. I was actually a vegetarian for about 2 years before the weight gain. And it wasn't really for any reason. It was just because I didn't really like making meat. I was vegetarian and I found my protein in other ways. For the most part, I made really good healthy choices, but I do remember I was able to eat like a whole box of pizza by myself, which a lot of people were shocked because I was like only 140 pounds and I could eat a whole box of pizza. I'm 5'6". So I could also eat like plates and plates of food. I remember my metabolism was pretty fast at the time, but for the most part, I would say I always had a carb, a protein, and I ate healthy for the most part. So that was all before the weight gain. I would say I was a pretty healthy eater. Fast forward to early 2019, I found out I was pregnant, first child, and it was a shock. It was not a planned pregnancy. I was scared to tell my mom. And the day that I told her, I was just, I couldn't even say it. My husband told her, and boyfriend at the time. I was crying, and next thing you know, I moved out. My mom didn't kick me out, but I did move out with my boyfriend at the time, and we moved to our first apartment together. And I had to learn how to cook. I was finding out that I was a mom. So many life changes were happening, and I became depressed when I was pregnant. I remember I would sit on the couch and I would just be under the covers crying. I had really no reason to cry. I cried very often. Me and my mom were not on the best terms at the time. I was just, so much was happening at the time. I ate a lot of junk food. I was no longer vegetarian. I ate tacos, I ate everything. And as someone who didn't really, I was just leaving my mom's house and I had to cook for myself. And at first, I was making, like, I would say decent choices. But then as I continued to, I guess, have my own lifestyle, everything kind of just went downhill. I remember we had these huge packs of Oreos, like 6, the ones with like a bunch of rows, like 3 rows, and it had a lot of Oreos in it. I remember we finished all of that before I gave birth. We had so much Oreos. And Oreos are my favorite cookies, by the way. But I did not take care of myself during that pregnancy. And I started that pregnancy at 140, and I ended that pregnancy at 216 pounds. I think that's a 70 something pound weight gain. Sorry, I don't really know. I'm not going to do the math on the top of my head. Pretty insane to have gained that amount of weight for my pregnancy. And at the time, I think a lot of us first time moms, we just think that it's just going to fall off as soon as we give birth. Well, at least that's what I thought. And then postpartum, right away, I would say in the first 6 weeks of giving birth, I had already lost a couple pounds. I was like 180 and I dropped it pretty fast. So I assumed I was going to continue to drop it. And then I would say 2 months after giving birth to my baby, I got on birth control. And once I got on birth control, my weight spiked up. I would say my postpartum depression was actually at its worst 3 weeks after taking my birth control. I found myself my saddest. I was crying all the time. I remember being on the floor, like just crying and screaming, and it was just one of those like terrible cries. My husband realized I needed to go get help. I went to the doctor, got prescribed some medicine. I didn't take it that long just because I didn't like the way that the medicine made me feel. And I would say during this time, my depression was its worst. I would continue to film videos, which aren't now deleted, but I did continue to film videos and the process of me trying to lose weight, but everything I did failed. And after about 6 months of the birth control, I was bleeding pretty often and it was annoying. It was like spotting pretty much every day. And as you could tell, you don't want to put a liner on every single day of your life. So by the time I hit 6 months, I decided to get off of it. And immediately after I got off of it, I lost about like 6 pounds. And then I did keto and I went from like 204 to like 185, I would say. And then I gained all that back plus some more. I ended at 207, got pregnant at gestational diabetes the second time around, and I ended that pregnancy at 237 or around there. Lost, I would say, half of that weight and ended at 217. And then I went into my bad habits again and I gained that plus more. I actually weighed more than when I was giving birth to my daughter. So I ended at 240, and that was about the summer of 2023. Basically, I gained the 100 pounds because I emotionally ate from the moment I would say that I got pregnant to, I guess, June 2023. I had gone through a lot. I went through, I guess, prenatal depression, postpartum depression, regular depression, and I just emotionally ate. After giving birth to my first, I just felt like everything changed. And then when I got pregnant the second time, I was happy during my pregnancy with my daughter. And then I'd say like the first year was fine, but then I fell back into depression again. And it would get really bad, especially during my period, which is why I think that it was hormonal. I did go to the doctors to check that out, but that is basically how I gained 100 pounds. And now, how the 100 pounds affected me physically and mentally. So, mentally, I was constantly talking down on myself. I did not like the way that I looked. I constantly just talked bad about myself, which I think also just made my depression worse because my self-confidence was at my lowest. I felt sad all the time. I don't know, I just feel like my hormones were just completely out of whack, honestly. And I constantly made excuses and my mental state was just not there. Like, I did not have a good voice. I did not have a good inner voice. I was constantly being mean to myself. And I look back on it now and I'm like, I can't believe how mean I was to myself. Some things that also were affected is I just feel like I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. I could barely tie my shoelaces. So I'm going to give you guys an example on how I tied my shoelaces. So back then, I can lift my leg up now, but I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, so I can lift my leg up like this, but back then I would have to grab my leggings and go like that to lift my shoes. You don't realize like the small things that you can do before gaining so much weight. You don't realize the little small things that you can do on a daily basis and how weight gain can change that. I was constantly out of breath. Every time I went up any stairs, I felt like I was dying. I could not breathe to save my life. When I would go to school, go up the stairs, I would be breaking a sweat, which wasn't even that many stairs. I could not jump. Every time I ran, I felt like I was fast, but I felt like I was moving in slow motion. The first soccer game that I played back after all this weight gain after months having my daughter. I was moving in slow motion. I was in pain. My pelvis hurt. My shins hurt. My shins hurt so bad. And I know it's from all this weight that I'm carrying. My shins probably can't handle it. And I've seen clips of myself running because I do record my weight loss journey. I was also very weak, and every exercise I did, I just could not do any of the workouts. The painful shins when I would run was one of the reasons why I stopped running for a time period. Now that I've lost some weight, I know that I feel like it did have to do a lot with my weight because my shins feel fine. It would hurt pretty much to the touch of my shins. I could touch them. Like right now they don't hurt, which is crazy because I remember just touching them. Oh, it hurt so bad. I couldn't turn on the bed. I would have to hold on, I guess, to like the bed frame to turn my whole body. And it's something that I also did during my pregnancy. And that's how I knew. I was like, I don't want to live like this. I feel like everything is holding me back. And it's just annoying that the small things in life were bothering me because of this weight gain. I was scared to do certain things like climbing on my attic stairs because the weight limit was 250 and I was already at 240. And I'm like, what if I break it? I'm only 10 pounds under the limit, which was crazy to me that I'm pretty much almost at the limit. And who knows, if I was riding rides, would I even be able to? I would not want to get to that point. Some other things that really affected me when I couldn't do it is like catching up to my kids. My kids are faster. My oldest is faster. He's really fast. He's faster than I am. And now that I'm getting a little bit faster, I definitely will catch up to him. But not being able to catch up to them and being out of breath worries me as a mom because I just want to make sure that they're always safe. And what if they're running in a place that's not safe? If they run too ahead of me and run towards a parking lot, like for me not to be able to catch them, it makes me scared. And another thing is we have these swings where you can swing with your child. I could not fit into the swings. It felt like, well, scratch that. I could fit into it, but not like without being in pain. I felt like the sides of the swings were stabbing my outer thighs or my hip area, and not being able to fit and swing with my child really bothers me too. Not only was it affecting my life, but it affected my kids and it affected my husband. I was constantly talking about the pain that I was in, the way that I was feeling mentally, feeling sad, did not like the way that I felt, and I don't know, it just complaining to my husband pretty much 24/7 when knowing that everything was in my own hands is what bothered me kind of the most. Is that if I really tried, I could have lost the weight. And I made so many excuses for a long time on why I couldn't. But at this point, it's affecting everybody around me, and most importantly, my kids. So I definitely put a change to that. And I'm going to make an episode 2 on how I'm making the change and how I've changed things so far. It sucks not being able to catch up to your kids, and it sucks not being able to swing with your kids. So it sucks running in slow motion. It sucks not being able to jump when you love to exercise. It sucks when someone touches your shin and it hurts to the touch. Like not just me walking. But that is how 100 pounds changed my life. This was like a long story. It feels like a long story time. But anyways, I will be posting the second half of this, which will be what I did to change the mindset that I had to where I am currently. I don't really talk bad to myself. I'm pretty much a positive person. I'm not sad anymore. Yeah, it took months, but here I am 6 months later and I am feeling good. So anyways, I will see you guys in part 2.